Hi, PSF family. My name is Onyi.
And my name's Temi.
And this is Shifted Perspectives.
Stories of faith and divine insights.
Yes.
So, Onyi, how was your week this week?
My week was amazing.
Yeah. How's it been going for you, you know?
I've been great. I've been really living life.
Any new developments? Anything?
No new developments in this town.
Oh, okay.
In this temple.
Okay.
Only the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Lives in me.
Lovely.
Anyways,
Yeah, this week has been pretty chill for me too.
Yeah, that's great.
That's good. Okay, let's jump right into it. What is your tea, tears, and triumphs?
Yeah,
for
my
this week?
tea for this week is literally that God is making me more like Him, which I think is so beautiful to see. When I look back, like who I used to be, I'm like, wow, who is she? Because I don't recognize her. And I think that's the beauty of transformation. Like there should be a clear growth, a clear change in your life. And so I was teaching in the youth church this last Sunday, and I was telling them about like some of the past mistakes I made. And a lot of them were like, wow, I can't even see you doing that. And I was like, look at growth. Look at God. Because if they're like, actually, yeah, I can see that. You actually still act that way. It's like, oh, well, a lot more transformation needs to happen. But yeah, like the whole message was about like transformation of your heart. So being able to like show my life as an example to them was really, inspiring for me. And like just being able to like ponder on that, like brought some tears. I was like, wow, Onyi, look at growth. And so that's my triumph that, I've changed.
You thank God. Because literally, I think that's probably my greatest testimony and blessing is that like I'm unrecognizable than who I used to be.
Yeah, that's the goal.
People
that
be
is
like,
always
Temi,
the goal.
people who meet me now, they'll be like, Temi, you used to be wild and reckless. I say, yeah, I used to be reckless.
If not for God.
But yeah, okay, so what's the tears?
Yeah, that was part of my tears. Like just really just sitting down and pondering like, wow, that was me. We're never going back.
Come on now.
We're not going back. Doesn't matter who's dragging me.
Right.
My Lord will drag me out.
Literally.
And my triumph is just being able to be a living testimony. I think that's really beautiful. Like to be able to walk around and know that I'm living 2 Corinthians 5:17, which says, you're a new creation. The Lord has changed you, transformed you, and given you a new mind. Like just being able to like actually say that, I'm like, yeah, that's very true to my life. Like
that's good.
The Bible actually is doing something in my life.
Come on, it's so like it really does take a step back seeing the growth because I didn't even realize it until like when I was really in my like. I feel like I'm still in my wilderness season, but I was like really in my wilderness season at that time. Yeah. And I was that was my prayer was, I don't know if you've watched Chosen. Mm-hmm. So in the Chosen, like the first episode of the first 2 episodes, Mary, they called her Lilith, right? Because, I love the Chosen because it gives like a different perspectives. Like it personifies the characters of the Bible and stuff like that. And what really stood out to me was when, was it the Philistine that went up to her? And she was like, he went up to her, he's like, wait, I thought you were infected with all of these demons. She was just like, yeah, like I don't know what happened. All I know is that I had demons and now I'm set free and I don't like, I'm now unrecognizable. Yeah. And I remember that was like my number one prayer point. I want people to see me and be like, yeah, she used to be this and now she's this. I don't know how it happened, right? But like, it's like night and day. Right. So that was my biggest prayer point. And I wrote it down and I think like a couple months later, I think it was sometime this year, I saw it and I was just like, wow. Like the one thing people tell me was like, Temi, like you've changed so much. Like every time I see you, like it's like I just have to pray because the growth is so much. So I'm just like, when I tell you, I really relate on that. Yeah.
That's really amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Look at us.
Yeah. Okay, so my tea for this week, I was watching a video on TikTok. Again, like I usually do. And there was this girl, she was, it was these 2 girls, they were in the car. And it was basically like a friendship, like a best friend. And like the friend kept going back to her ex, and her ex was like treating her bad or whatever. And she was basically coaching her through it. And she was like, I'm going to give you some tough love right now. And she said something that just hit me like a wave. She said, love yourself. This is what she said. And I added my own twist. She said, love yourself more than you love attention and trauma. I said, what? And then I added my own, love yourself and love God more than you love attention and trauma. And I have never related to a statement more than that in my entire life.
Stand up.
It's not even about standing up. It's more of a thing of like, it's like, I didn't realize it until after. I'm just like, oh my God, life is just so boring. Like,
life is so boring.
Life is so boring. Life is so quiet. I have nobody stressing me out. I have no reason to have anxiety. But you don't realize that you crave chaos. You look for chaos. Like, I was a person that, if I didn't have chaos, I would be creating it for myself. So I'm like, oh my God, my life is so jam-packed. And I'll be praying like, I just need peace. I just need quiet. Now that I have peace and quiet, I'm complaining that it's too boring. Yeah. And I was just like, didn't you pray for that boringness? Yeah. Having a boring life is a gift. Having a boring life is a gift. Yeah. And so like, I was just like, oh my God, love yourself and love God more than you love attention and trauma. And it's wow. And when I listened to it, I was like, oh my God.
That's me.
No, literally. I was like, that's me. And I was like, you know what? That is true. Yeah. Because on the Grey's Outfield, I was a person that did things for the plot. I did things for the excitement. I was a thrill seeker. I don't know.
I was giving reality TV with no cameras.
I thought I was on a reality TV show, Love and Hip Hop, Baddies, whatever it is. I am the star.
Like, who's watching you?
I'm the star. God's probably watching me with popcorn in his hand. Be like, look what she's doing. Look what she's doing. So, like, that was my tea of this week, and it really shook me. And I'm like, no, I like my boy. I'm gonna try hard to love myself, love my peace, love what God has given me enough not to seek attention and trauma, especially from the wrong places.
Yeah, that's good.
Then my tears, I don't know, with me was this past week and the past couple of weeks, I've been having trouble with, like, I've been seeing that I have a weakness in setting boundaries when it comes to, especially when it comes to friendships. Yeah. Like, I'm just a person that just wants to give, make sure everyone's good, make sure everyone's like fine. And I've realized that, like, I'm just in a bunch of relationships that is just take. And I'm all give because I just want to make sure everyone is good. But then it's like, now I don't have a balance of, like, is this a profitable friendship for me? And, like, how am I, like, finding a balance of helping somebody, but not also burdening myself and weighing myself down in that same situation.
Yeah. And, like, I think another great point for everybody to look at is, like, how do I treat God? Because how we treat God is going to reflect as well how we treat other people and what other people see as, like, okay. So, for example, if we only go to God when we have problems, don't be surprised when people in our lives are just like, let me burdensome with you with my problems. I mean, for me, that was something that I had to realize in my life because I was very much a people pleaser. And I was like, oh, I really want to love you. I want to help you. What do you need? I'll give you everything. And then I had to realize that, like, I feel this way because I feel guilty about my relationship with God because I'm taking everything from him. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I can repay this back by doing all these good works. We got to remember that our faith is not about good works. So in the end of the day, it doesn't solve anything. And then people enjoy that, like, oh, wow, free labor, free help, free love free of advice, like anything I can get. Yeah. And free so energy. Learning boundaries is also checking, like, okay, where is this coming from? Because sometimes there's a deeper meaning to it. So
so I don't know, it's just been
and communication, let them know.
I don't even want to call myself a non-confrontational person. I just hate conflict. And it's good, but then it also works into a fault where it's like, if I know a person's personality and character, like, they're a person that's not afraid of conflict, like, they will brawl. And I'm brawl. I might have a big personality, but I don't brawl. So, like, it's more.
That's where the reality TV stops at.
Yeah,
we're not spilling drinks.
I ain't spilling drinks. This is not.
Like, give me the boring life. I'm okay.
This is not baddies ATL. Like, I can't, or like bad girls club. It's not.
I'm a good girl.
I'm a good girl. I'm here for the tea. I'm here for the drama, but I don't fight. So verbally and also like physically as well. Yeah. So like, I'm a person that tries to avoid conflict in any way that I can. And I'm a person that I sometimes, if I feel a way about something, I sometimes don't even feel the need to air it out or like talk about it or whatever. I just kind of deal with it on my own and just kind of like navigate the friendship a lot differently. But I have some people calling me out on it.
That's good accountability. That's very important. That's very important. Yeah.
Yeah. So God's been, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'll give y'all an update next week. Okay. And then my triumph, little triumph for me. My triumph for this week was Lil Mason, Lil Tamar, or whatever. We're here to be vulnerable and raw, right? So I'm going to be vulnerable and raw. So, yeah. So like, I think I spoke on like the last couple of episodes. So only 2 episodes. But I spoke on it like I was in a relationship, whatever. So I was in that relationship for about a year. And like we officially like stopped talking and we're like stopped being together around August, September of last year. So I've been doing a lot of work. I've been doing a lot of self-healing, right? And you know me, at the end of the day, yes, I'm American, but I'm a Nigerian woman to the core. So in my mind, it's no one can see me sweat at all. Nobody can see me sweat at all. Like, so yes, I might be crying about that boy in my room, but when he sees me, my shoulder is up. My shoulder is up. My chest is out. No one, Yeah. But again, it was all pretense. But again, nobody, But so like, as you know, as you're going through a healing process, it's like I'm grieving a relationship. I'm grieving this whole thing, right? So I'm going through all the stages of like denial, bargaining, anger, and all those kind of things. So I was in that anger spot for quite a bit because like when you get out of denial and your eyes open and you finally see what actually, because I went through a phase where I was reliving the whole relationship. I said, wow, this man really gaslit me. This man really played on my intelligence. What? And so I got angry at myself and I also got angry at him. So because of that, through my healing process, obviously no contact, but you go to church, you see him, I see him. So like, and like also because of other circumstances of like, there was definitely overlap from his relationship now and my relationship. And like, so like just figuring that out now and all those kind of things, like knowing how much he really did do me wrong. Like what? So every time I see him, like, of course, like I tried as much to avoid him. And I'll even pray to God, like send him away. And I can't lie, that prayer worked because I go to this church. I used to see him every single weekend at church. Nice. Now I didn't even know he went to this church anymore. So thank God for that. But there will be a few times I'll see him. And every time I see him, I just want to go. But like, of course, I look unfazed. But inside, I know that I want to like stab him a little bit, But that's not, God is still working on me. We don't condone violence, though, guys. See, we don't do it. But I will say, on Sunday, I saw him, like, I think I was just walking by and I just saw him, like, he was with his mom or whatever. And I saw him, and for the very first time, I was like, indifferent about it. Wow. And I didn't realize until I went upstairs, I was like, usually I would feel like something in my stomach and I would just go like, But for and the thing is, that was the first time I had seen him in a very, very long time. So I saw him, I was just like, wow. Healed. Like, God's really working on me, guys. So I just want to say this is my mini triumph of this week. Like, and it might not be a big deal to y'all, but it's a really big deal to me because it feels like, and I've been feeling like weight has been lifted off my chest, but it's like, because I'm also not around him, right? But if I'm seeing him, like, then there's like a reminder of all those kind of things. But now that I see him, I don't really, like, I don't feel anything, like, or not feel anything, but I don't feel the malice or the anger. So that's my little triumph for the day. Wow. I saw my ex and I didn't want to stab him. Transformation, guys. God did it. Yeah. God did it for me.
Yes.
If God did it for me, He will do it for you. Right.
Hashtag bored life 2024.
Yeah, no drama.
Once you go through one bad one, you're like, never again.
I'm good. So
never again.
That's the season I'm in right now. I'm in Zen, peace, boredom, and I'm happy with it. Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, because chaos is actually not fun.
Yes, and I think I feel like with so all 2024, I'm all about boredom. I'm all about peace. I'm all about Zen. Yeah, like no more chasing chaos. And I even feel like as us Nigerians, we just love struggle.
Put it on the whole continent.
No, it's not about. But it's like
the whole country.
We love struggle, and I think I was actually even talking to somebody about this.
Is it from a place of trauma?
Yeah, it does come from a place of trauma. Yeah. I think so, and I feel like also as a society, we also romanticize struggle. It mind boggles me to the point where somebody will come up to me and be like, oh my gosh, you've never really gone through anything in your life. I've gone through this, and they say it as a badge of honor. And I'm like, yes, you were able to overcome, and I really acknowledge that. Yeah. But if I'm able to avoid those struggles, I will do. Yeah. Necessary to avoid struggling that. I'm not going to romanticize going through hardships, because I feel like once we romanticize going through hardship as this is just the experience of life, and when you're actually experiencing it, it's not as rosy as you think it is.
I mean, and that goes to just society in general. We talked about Bad Girls Club and all these reality shows that if there's no drama, this it's boring. There's nothing happening. So I feel like that's what people crave is I want the tea, I want the drama, and if everything's going too well, it's what's wrong?
Something is wrong. Yeah. I need to do something. It's too peaceful.
He's hiding something. He has 5 kids and a wife somewhere. And so that's
if you're having that inkling, you might have the spirit of discernment on that one. Please listen to that. Because I know so many times we ignore it.
When it's too quiet.
When it's too quiet, you might. If you're having that inkling, but yeah.
But then, when we look at our faith too, life is literally a spiritual battle. So if it's too peaceful, is something off?
Yeah.
If there's no battle happening, am I on the wrong side? Nobody's fighting me. Why is the devil not fighting?
Why?
Why are you comfortable with me just living life? Why are there no trials? So but then the Bible does talk about God has not given us spirit of fear. Yes. He wants us to have a peaceful life. But he also says in this life you will have trials. So what is the balance? If my life is just no trial, I'm just chilling, does that mean I'm on the wrong side? Or does that mean I have God's peace in me? Or there is trials, but in those trials I have peace.
I think that's what it is. In those trials you have peace.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big testament to your relationship with God.
Yeah.
And the trust that you have with God. It's okay, the same God that led me through this storm is gonna lead me through that one. So I'm gonna have peace. I'm not gonna stress. I'm not gonna struggle. Yeah, He's the one that's gonna carry me. I'm not even gonna try to fight my battle. That's where the peace comes from. At least for me, anyway. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Welcome back, guys.
Yes, welcome back to Shifted Perspectives.
Yeah, Shifted Perspectives. So we're about to get into our little hot topics for today.
Yes.
So what I saw this week, I don't know if people have been seeing it, but there's been this video, there's an interview that's been going around. And it's this woman, she suffered from a lot of sexual abuse, a lot of physical abuse, or so much trauma. Yeah. And she goes into depth of ever since she was really, really young, an infant, to how old she is now. How many people abused her. So she talks about how she was abused by her dad, she was abused by her brothers, moving from mom's house to dad's house. She talks about how her mom was also schizophrenic, so like there were times where like she would have episodes that would put her in danger. So she was just really like going into depth about her situation. And I was watching the video and I was just like, first I said thank you Jesus. I said thank you Jesus, because I was just like, wow, like, and you could tell she still has healing to happen, but you can tell that like she has done a lot of work to get her to that place, because she talks about how like from the beginning she started getting abused. She got abused by outside people, but she mostly talks about getting abused by her family. She talks about how her dad would sexually molest her and abuse her and all those kind of things. And it then degenerated to her brothers doing it. And one thing that caught me off guard was the fact of like, she had unforgiveness for her dad. She was like, that man is evil, I hate him. But when the interview asked her and was like, how do you feel about your brothers? She said she forgave her brother, basically saying that like her brothers were also molested and abused by, I think, her older sister. And so she said that trauma is like if it's unaddressed, it's like a ripple effect. It just goes on and on and on, and it transfers from generation to generation. And so she talks about like extending that grace to her big brothers because they didn't know. And as well, like her dad also like was also abusing her. They didn't know. Her mom being schizophrenic, like she didn't know. So she was talking about that. I'm just like, that is such, it takes a lot of strength and work and healing to get there. And it like, I was just so shocked by this whole thing. And you guys should really watch the interview. We're going to put the link in the description of the video. But yeah. And there was one thing that she said that was really just, whoa. She never referenced God throughout the whole interview. But then the interview asked, was like, okay, so when was the last time you got molested and raped? What happened? And she was like, she started off, she said, like, do you want to know how good God is to me? And I was like, And then so she basically was talking about how she was just like, the first time I truly cried to God for help, I said, God, I need you to help me. I need you to get me out of this situation. I cannot get myself out of this situation. That was the last day her dad raped her. And after that night, the dad had raped her. He came up to her and told her that he would never rape her again.
Wow.
I was just like, oh my God. Because she talks about in the before that her dad was also kind of like abusive and all those kind of things. And she was always a truth sayer. So when she was going to court and her dad wanted to take the witness stand and lie on his behalf, she couldn't. And so because she didn't lie, he went to jail for 3 years. So she was like, I'm free. I've handled this. No more of this. But like, even though she's at her mom's house, she's still getting raped by her brothers. But at least it's not her dad. Yeah. Wow. So it's just so crazy that she tried in her own mind and it didn't work. And he came back with full force. She ended up back into his house and the abuse continued on and on. And then she said, the first time I cried to God and I asked him to help me and realized I could not get myself out of this situation was the last day that I got raped and molested from anyone. Brothers, dad, anybody. And then she then talks about how she also grew up because of the molestation that she had as a kid or whatever. She was very promiscuous. She was, all these kind of things, which is to be expected. And what happened was she ended up entering a lot of relationships that were really bad, really abusive, and she had a baby out of like wedlock because of that. So she was just talking about all the things that were happening, but she made a very big point. She like her main theme for this whole thing was just like, when we talk about kids and we handle kids and we see, oh my God, this kid is acting out, like they're just like being promiscuous. They're not having good behavior. They're like, people only pay attention to the symptoms. And not the actual deep-rooted issue. People don't care to find out if there is a deep-rooted issue. And I even think for me, myself, I know personally, that's like been my own story. And I say this so many times when I'm talking to working with other youth and like talking to people who are working with other youth, I'm like, you see the bad behavior and you want to get at them for the bad behavior, which is true. But 9 times out of 10, that bad behavior is a symptom of a deep-rooted issue. So she was talking about like, yes, I was promiscuous. Yes, I behaved badly, but it was because of this, or because no one took time or cared enough to find out. They're getting at me for being promiscuous. I'm gonna do it anyway. Yeah. Because if you don't, So so I watched it. I said, wow,
that's a huge story. Honestly, I don't know what I would do if I was in her situation. Like some people would lose their lives. I'm kidding. But no, like I think it really just shows the power of God. And how powerless we really are against the enemy when we try to do it by ourselves. Therapy is great, counseling is great, but the power of God is better than all those things, and I think that shows like, how much we need God in every situation, and not to judge people by the book, by how they look, how they act, because maybe somebody could have been out there to help her, but they kind of like turn their face to her because they're like, oh, you're just too wild. You're just too this. You're just too that. And imagine like in the church, how many people are like that, are facing those same situations, but they get their backs turned to them because people are looking at who they are right now, not what they're going through or what they've been through. And it's like, man, some people are really going through some things, and all they needed was somebody to reach out to them and say, how are you? Are you okay? What's going on at home? And especially as PKs, when people give you this look of like, you gotta be perfect. Like there has to be nothing wrong. You can't make any more mistakes. It's harder even for us to speak up about things that we're struggling with, things that we're going through. And so, that even gives us a room to like be more empathetic to those who, people look down on or people don't want to speak to, and just be that helping hand and be like, hey, I'm here. I can hear you, and I'm willing to help as much as I can, and like really praying for those type of people instead of just judging them like, oh, you're just a bad kid, or oh, you're just always a mess up, and a lot of these things are spiritual. Really? The fact that like the brothers are going through the same thing, the father is going through this, the mother is going, like it seems like a generational thing, and a spirit is working in that, and the only spirit that can overcome that is the Holy Spirit. And so, we have to show God's love so that people can really receive freedom, not, judgment and hate and all of those things,
So. And I even want to agree with you, especially coming from a PK, like from living that, because when you go through trauma, because for me, when I was assaulted, there was never a moment of like, okay, I'm assaulted, let me like take it in. I think my first inkling was to like, okay, I have to be silent about this. I can't say anything about this. No one's gonna realize anything, because image was such a big deal for me, my family, and like just relatively how is that gonna look like, the chaos I'm gonna create. Me, I don't like conflict. So like the conflict that I was creating, so I just pushed it to the ground and didn't acknowledge it at all. But what I didn't know was like, obviously I was young, but I didn't know that like it came out in different ways. So like when my behaviors I was behaving badly, like in school I was behaving badly, and then like at that time, like I was also diagnosed with ADHD at the time, so it was just like, even with the drugs, I was still behaving really, really badly. I had even with myself, I had a lot of I was in a very depressive state, but at the time I didn't realize like this has probably gone through a root cause, and it also made me view Christianity in the church in such a crazy light, because probably for cherry on top, I got assaulted at church, so it probably didn't help. That probably didn't help. But it made me see church as performative, and because I hadn't encountered Christ for myself, the people I saw God, because I only referenced God through the people around me, my parents and the church. I saw Christianity as performative. I didn't think God really cared about me. I didn't really think God was like like, oh, this like, I'm like his treasure. I didn't really think that. So, and I'm just like, I'm just here to put on an image for Christ. Like I'm supposed to make sure I look good, but inside I feel dead. So because of that outlook, it really changed the way, like, things that I should have done for myself, the way I should have kept myself, like that promiscuousness is a very big one. Obviously, I wasn't having sex with everybody here, like, in the world. But in my mind, I already knew that I'm not going to be a virgin when I get married. Or, like, I'm not going to do that. Why am I going to be putting myself under unnecessary struggle and
when you didn't see yourself as valued?
Exactly. Plus, also, I also didn't want to acknowledge what had happened to me. Because if I make sex a big deal, if I make it a spiritual thing, then that means whatever happened to me is a big deal. So because of that, I became silent, but then it came out in so many different ways. And obviously, like, my parents, they are prayer warriors, so whatever comes in the dark will come out in the light. So it started with school, with all these things, and when everything was coming out, and they're like, what is happening? What is going on? Like, have we, whatever. And people are, like, getting at me for, she just doesn't want to act up. She just doesn't want to do this. She doesn't want to do that. But really, the root causes was, like, I have a lot of abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, like, emotional abuse that I had gone through, and I didn't really, I at the time register it. But, like, other people didn't also take the time to think, like, okay, maybe she's just not acting out to just act out. Maybe there's actually a situation going on that is making her go through it. But PK, it was more of like, you don't know how you're making us look. How are you making us look? What precedent are you setting to the people? Like, if, like, the main thing, like, my mom and my dad would always say this, they'd be like, people want to follow us, but if they see you acting like, they won't want to follow us. How can they follow us? And so my healing wasn't prioritized. My getting help wasn't prioritized. But looking like I was fine was prioritized. And it was just so, like, so when I listened to her story, like, it kind of gave me chills a little bit, because I was just like, oh my God, like, I remember. But it literally wasn't for the grace of God. To get me to this point.
And it's really interesting that you said, like, my healing wasn't prioritized. It was more of, like, me just looking the part. And then when we look at Jesus, he was here for the people who didn't look the part. The people who are willing to be like, I'm in need. I'm blind. I need restoration. I'm a tax collector. I don't want to live this way anymore. I'm a prostitute. I want to change. And the Pharisees.
I think I said Philistines too.
Pharisees,
yeah, it's definitely Pharisees.
So, like, the Pharisees that were like, "Oh, we're picture perfect. We don't do anything wrong." Like, he was like, "I don't have time for you guys. When you guys are ready to show that you're in need of a savior, then I'll be ready to help you." And I think that sometimes, as a PK, we can end up becoming like the Pharisees of, like, we got to look perfect. We got to look cookie cutter, like, everything to the Bible, to the letter. Yes, we have transformation. Yes, we live a transformed life, but we're not perfect right now. We're, every day we're striving towards perfection, but we're not there yet. And so it's so much more helpful to people when we're real and we're honest and we're raw and we're like, this is what I'm struggling with, or this is what God has helped me overcome, and this is how he can help you too. I understand, like, sometimes it's embarrassing to be like, oh my gosh, my daughter went through this, or oh my gosh, I went through this as a PK. But then, like, who are we really helping? We're helping the enemy at the end of the day, because he's thriving in that secrecy. He's thriving in, like, just things not coming out in the open, because the more things are left in the darkness, the more, he can manipulate, he can cause more chaos and all of these things. But when we bring things to the light, he loses that power. So I think, people should have a voice more. and voice out what they're going through. And then those who are listening should be more open to hearing them out. Like, yes, I've messed up. Okay, thank you for correcting me, but I need help. Like, yes, I've gone out and I've lost my virginity, but what's next? Not, okay, I got the lecture, but what's next? How can I heal? What can I do? Where's the restoration? Where's the redemption? And I think that's what's missing in a lot of churches. It's just like, oh, how could you do this? Oh, you're grounded. Oh, this is that. Oh, we're going to be cut you off from this in the church and that. But it's like, okay, but that person also needs help. You know, and that part is most times looked down upon. Like, either they're isolated or like people stop talking to them, and it's not really the best. And so, especially when you're on a position of like, oh, people are looking up to you and expecting so much of you. I am not Jesus. I am not God. I make mistakes just like everybody.
Girl trying to figure out what's going on with me.
You know,
like,
so it's a definitely, especially with our culture, it's really hard to get out of that mindset. But there's a lot of freedom in speaking up and like just bringing it out there. Like, this is what I'm going through. You know, so yeah.
Oh my gosh. We got so real. We got so raw. But yeah, I mean, that's what this podcast is really about.
Yes.
Like, this is a platform that we want to give a voice to PKs, but like for everyone to see that, like, you guys are you're not alone. Like, everybody goes through this. And like, for the people to know that, like, please extend grace.
Yeah, grace is so important.
Like, extend grace.
Yeah, it's not condoning behavior, but grace is still needed.
Grace is still needed, especially as young kids. So yeah. So, oh my gosh, that was. Welcome back, guys, to Shifted Perspectives. We're not back for our next segment. It's the PK perspective. You know, as we've been doing this whole season, our season theme is freedom, how we got freed and how we stayed freed. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about freedom from trauma.
Yes, freedom from trauma. And we're going to be looking at the story of Amnon, Jonadab, Tamar, and Absalom. And basically, the story can be found in 2 Samuel 13, verses 1 to 32. And to just give a quick summary, basically, Amnon was King David's eldest son, and he was also the half-brother of Absalom. And he was basically had made a really bad decision based on the advice that he got from his friend Jonadab to basically rape Absalom's sister, Tamar. And this created a lot of tension in the family. And down the line, we find out that Absalom actually finds out that this happened, and he takes revenge by killing Amnon. And so when I was reading the story, the first thing that came to my mind was really how it started with one wrong advice from a friend. And, you know, I was really just thinking of this question of like, what are some of the dangers of like giving the wrong advice? Like, sometimes we think like, oh, a friend just came to me for advice, I'm just gonna think what's the quickest answer to give them. But sometimes, like we see in the story of Amnon and Absalom, that can lead to literally a death. And so what are the dangers of giving the wrong advice, or just being a friend who enables someone in their wrong behavior? Because, you know, Jonadab knew that like Amnon had this weird desire for his sister. That's where you gotta be like, hey, dude, let's calm down. Let's get therapy. Yeah. What was going on? Not like here's like a full on strategy of how to rape your sister or half sister. So
such a crazy phenomenon. And it's like this. I think it's also very important for us to be aware of the kind of friends we also keep.
Yeah.
Like, we need to know, like, is this somebody that, like, if I know if I'm making the wrong direction, are they going to encourage me in making those wrong direction? Or are they going to tell me, hey, don't rape your sister. Let's brainstorm.
That's just crazy. That needs to be a conversation.
Guys, in this political economic crisis that we're in right now, it has to be said. Because, oh my God, because people were very impressionable. We usually go with bad advice, and because of that one advice, the generational trauma that came after it is unexplainable. So it's very important, one, to make sure like you have good friends and you don't have yes men around you. And then 2, for us is like, even as a friend, we also have to take initiative to like, if I see my friend going down the wrong path, it will be a disservice to them and like everybody else around them if I encourage them to do it. Even though like you might not want to, you know, like make them upset or like, you know, like say that, oh, I don't want to, you know, make them feel sad or make them upset. But sometimes if you see them making wrong decisions or making bad decisions, like it is your job. I think it says in the Bible too that like we owe it to our brothers and sisters to make sure we speak and say stuff about that. So I totally agree about that.
Yeah. And I think there's also importance in knowing who your friends are. You know, in 2 Samuel 13 verse 3, it basically says that but Amnon had a very crafty friend, his cousin Jonadab. He was the son of David's brother Shimei. So the Bible was literally highlighting the fact that Jonadab was known to be crafty. Who else was crafty? The snake in the garden. So we know craftiness is not a good sign. And so it's not a cute trait to have, like, oh, you know, I'm crafty, like I know how to like manipulate my way to get what I want. Like those are not the type of friends that you want to like surround yourself with. Yeah, it may be fun in the beginning because you get some perks, like, oh, I got free passes to this, or oh, I got into this place, or whatever advantage you're getting because you have a crafty friend. At one point or another, they're going to lead you down the wrong path. So know who your friends are. Don't wait until you're already down deep in your wrong decisions and you're like, hey, like I need advice. And then that's when you start to realize, oh wait, you're probably not the best person to ask. And then you have not even built a community of like good people to speak to, you know. So
and I think it's also important that like I see the weakness in myself and I make sure the friend that I have next to me has a strength in that. Like the blind can't be leading the blind here. Like there has to be a balance with everybody around me. So like where I am weak, you're strong. Where I am strong, you're weak. So that we can be able to lift each other up. We can be able to help each other going through like trying times or making decisions or anything like that. So I think it's very important as well when we are actively choosing friends that I need to find somebody that we don't all have to be the same. Like where I am weak, you're strong, so that you can help me and vice versa. So I think that's also very, very, very very important.
And it's so, and like on that tangent, like it's so important to have someone that's reliable, that it's like, okay, if I'm going down the deep end, you're not looking at, oh, your dad is a pastor or your mom's a pastor, like how can I tell you this, they're shaking in their boots, how do I, like, no, you gotta be quick with it. Hey, you're going down the wrong path, let's get it together, let's get it right, you know, because in Proverbs 25 verse 19 it says, putting confidence in an unreliable person in times of trouble is like chewing with a broken tooth or walking on a lame foot. It's like they're useless. They are not there to help you. They there. Like if I have a foot that's lame, it's not that it's amputated, it's still there, but it has no use to me. Like it's not, you know, going to help me in times when I need to be running against the bear. Like it's gonna instead slow me down. So just because you have a friend doesn't mean that that's it. Like they need to be a reliable person, somebody that I can call on when I'm in trouble, when I'm in need of help. Like I need somebody to give it to me straight, like, hey, you're going down the wrong path, this is the right thing to do. And Jonadab was not a good example of that.
Jonadab was a horrible example of that. And I think it's also important as well, like a lot of people, they pick friends, they're just like, oh my god, we vibe, we have the same interests, like we do the same things, we like the same things, I guess we're gonna be best buds now. No, that's not your friend. For me, the biggest attributes that I look for in a friend is loyalty, somebody that I can call on, somebody that I know that will be incredibly real with me and incredibly raw. Those are the things that I value the most and I look for in people that I hold close to. But you can vibe with anybody. You can like, but I don't think that is the determining factor of okay, this person's gonna be my friend. Right. And I think this story is also like, you can look at it in so many different views, but it was just the beginning of just a railroad of trauma, like for David's lineage. Like it was, I mean, obviously there was already prophesied for David already, but still you can see the negligence from David towards his kids, because Absalom, when David found out, David did nothing.
David was like, well, that's so crazy.
So,
wow.
And so then when Absalom was like, dang, really? And then Absalom now took it into his own hands, killed his older brother. More trauma. What did David do? Silence. Nothing.
He grieved.
Silence. Then Absalom is banished.
Yeah.
Sister is raped. Brother is dead. Then when Absalom comes back, because David is David is in Jerusalem, Absalom is banished.
Yeah.
Joab finds a way to convince David, Absalom, you can come back. David allows Absalom to come back, but never talks to him. Absalom is filled with bitterness.
Yeah.
Then he decides, I'm gonna take over Jerusalem. I'm gonna take over Israel.
Their concubines.
Betrayal, trauma. Then, of course, David is beaten and battered and sad. Then, not only did Absalom go and say, I'm gonna take over Israel, I'm gonna sleep with all your girls.
Yeah.
All the girls you left at home, I'm gonna sleep in them, and I'm gonna embarrass you.
Yeah.
More trauma.
Bad advice once again from a trusted friend.
Oh yeah, bad advice. That too. Bad advice. Sleep with them in front of everybody on the top.
That's so crazy.
On the top of the castle, so that everybody will see that I slept with my dad's women.
That's so crazy.
When came back, Joab came. Joab killed Absalom. Dead. Trauma. Then, like, I don't know if you see the pattern. After David left his own, got old or whatever like that.
Yeah.
Adonijah came. He said he wants to be king.
Yeah.
Guess what? It's just when trauma is left unaddressed, just you see that it trickles, it goes down. It's like a cancer.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big thing for all of us, especially if you look at the Bible. The one thing that is very consistent with men of God and men of God families is that they leave things so unaddressed, especially in their families, and it has lifelong consequences. Like, there's only, is there a family, Ruth and Boaz, maybe? I'll say that Ruth and Boaz is probably the most steady family in the Bible.
Yeah.
But out of everybody else,
tragedy.
Like, tragedy is like the main, like, consistent thing throughout. So you see how it is so important that we cannot leave things unattended. We cannot leave things unaddressed. So our topic is how we got freed and how we stayed freed. So our trauma is something that it sometimes can bind us. It can sometimes can leave us like feeling bound, and that we can't escape, whether it's generational, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whether it's sexual, whether it's spiritual trauma. Like, how do we go about breaking those evil yokes? Yeah. So, like, I think for the first step for doing that is speaking. First step is to speak it out, say it out, tell somebody. Tell somebody, because
a trusted and reliable friend. That's somebody that go and sleep with your brother.
But I think it's very, very, very important that we speak it out, because it's a very big misconception. Because the one thing the devil will try to bring is shame, is guilt, is just all these negative feelings concerning your trauma that traps you into not speaking it out. And that is, secrets is the devil's playground. So I think it's very, very important. The first thing that we need to do is to speak. Secrets allow that cancer to grow. So knowing that, like, I've did it right now. Somebody knows about it. Somebody, like, I'm not alone in this situation. It's just not me and my own thoughts. And I think the day that I decided to speak on my own trauma and said that, like, hey, it was bad. But then it became, okay, I feel like now I have autonomy over this. Like, this is not something that's like weighing me down for years. And it's a sad thing to say, but I think my mom told me this when I finally told her. She was like, because it took me like 5 years to say mine. And she was just like, even not for yourself, but for somebody else, like, You don't even know somebody else might be going through the same situation, or you might have helped somebody like escape a similar situation if you had just spoken. And so it's not even trauma for you, but future or impending trauma that could be avoided for other people. Speaking it out does a big thing. How do you feel about that? Seriously?
Yeah, speaking is so important. Like whatever is left in the dark, the enemy can manipulate and create more issues. To bring it back to like, with David and his whole family line, if you look at like what he did with Bathsheba, like that should have been something that should have been spoken up in the family. Hey, we as men, we have a weakness and we're not continuing this. Because when you look at Solomon, like he literally wrote all the Proverbs. Hey, watch out for this type of woman. Watch out for that. Like he was like, we're breaking this generational curse. We're not continuing this. My children will not fall into this same trap. And I feel like that's what David should have done. And I feel like a lot of things would have been avoided. So it really starts from like parents speaking up. And then that gives, children the confidence to also speak up. And then down the line, like those generational curses are healed and broken. But if it is the fact that like, okay, well, here I am, I'm the Amnon in my family, or I'm the whatever, like this is the struggle that I'm going through. I'm going through the trauma. I don't know what to do. I have these impulses. What do I do? Then I would say, yeah, speak up. A reliable friend, a reliable mentor, somebody that can help you and advise you in the correct way. Don't go to the John apps in your life that will tell you to do the exact opposite of what you actually need to do. But there is power in speaking up, and the enemy will try to like make us feel like, oh, if you speak up, like people won't believe you, or people will shame you, or all these things. That is a lie from the enemy. Somebody will believe you. Somebody will help you, especially if you pray before you go out and speak.
Absolutely.
God will guide you to the right people. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, and even after speaking, because speaking is the first step of breaking those evil yokes. But I think also getting out of them, because there's also a stronghold or a yoke that the devil would try to like deceive you from speaking, in a sense of, even for me, like it was always like an image thing, because as a PK, I was just like, there's just gonna be chaos there. I don't even know if people are gonna believe me, or like it's probably my fault in some kind of twisted way. So I had all these fears that kept my mouth shut, and I allowed the devil to silence me. And in silencing myself, it caused so much difficult and like bad decisions that were made on my part and other people's part as well. So like I think it's very, very important to like take that first step into breaking that evil yoke. And I think the second step, bro, is to call out to God, because like we said during our hot topics, the woman was like, the first time I ever called out to God, and I fully said, God, you are the only one that will be able to help me through this. That was when she got full true deliverance. And I was just like, it's so important that we know that like we have to surrender it. We want to surrender our lives. We have to also surrender our traumas. We have to surrender, like, the only person that's going to heal me is God. And I have to give the driver's seat. And I feel like having that belief of saying that I cannot do this on my own. The only person that can help me is God. It feels a desperation to get better. It feels a desperation. I was like, okay, the only way I could get better is to seek him. The only way I could get better is to like, okay, God, I don't feel great today. I need you to deliver me. Having that belief, having that trust, I think it's just so grounding, and there's peace in that. So I really implore with everyone, like, call out to God, because he is your savior. He wants to save you. He's just waiting for you to raise up your hand so that he can pick you up. So I think that's very, 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 very important. And also to the fact of, like, I think for me, I was battling the driver's seat a long time. I was battling the driver's wheel from God a long time. I did not want to fully surrender. I did not know what it even looked like to fully surrender my life and my trauma. And because I thought, I could get better myself. I can heal myself. I just need time. I'll be okay. I'll be this. I'll be that. And then God sat down and waited for me and said,
yeah.
Like, no. Yeah. Like, girl, what?
I created you. So.
Like, yeah. I know what's best for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And somebody's just waiting on your testimony to also heal as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the enemy doesn't want. Like, when we speak up, when we like shout it out, like, hey, this is what happened. This is my story and I'm not ashamed of it. You know, because God has healed me and he has transformed me to something even more beautiful than I ever thought I would become. It basically kills all the power that the enemy has over that situation. And so he wants to keep it in a secret. And so I think it does require that strength from God to like go out of your norm, go out of your comfort zone and be like, this is what's going on and I need your help, God. Like, I can't do this anymore. I can't hide it. I can't pretend. I can't put up a face. This is the truth, and expose it. It's fine, you know. I would then add, what do people do? Because this is some people's stories. What do people do when the trauma is from someone who they is like, let's say a spiritual authority above them, a pastor, a minister? Like, there's a lot of people who look up to this person, and so they feel like, okay, if I do speak up, if I do say something, like, I'm gonna scatter the whole church. Like, how do I talk about this? What do I do?
Scatter the whole church. I'm looking into the camera right now.
Temi says, shake the table.
Shake the table. What did Jesus do? It's like, what did Jesus do?
Yeah.
Jesus thought, why are you making the church a marketplace? What did he do? He scattered the whole place. He saw something that was happening that was wrong, and he scattered the whole place.
Yeah.
So if Jesus did it, I'm gonna do it too. Like, and I'm a firm believer. I think I watched this video of a woman. She said that if somebody is holding a ball of nails, right, and and they're pushing, like holding it, and like the nails are going through their hands. First, it hurts, but then you get numb to the pain, right? But you're hurting your hand the more you hold on to it. So when you initially let go, it's incredibly painful, right? But you need to go through that pain so that you can fully heal, right? So I'm a person that believes like it gets bad before it gets good again. It gets bad before it gets good again. And that was something I was like, oh my God, I don't want to shake up the church. I don't want something to happen. I don't want people to look like, oh my gosh, No, turntables. Throw them upside down. Shake it up. Because because of this mindset, we live a life where we are protecting the abusers. We're protecting the people that don't deserve protecting. Like, we tend to protect the abusers, and because of this mindset, it's at the expense of the victims. So it's like, who does God want to really protect? Who is Jesus truly advocating for? Jesus is advocating for those victims. Yes, the abusers can. I pray to God and ask for forgiveness. Amen. Hallelujah to that. But that has nothing to do with me. Like, so I am for shaking the tables, and it's going to get bad before it gets really good. But you need to ask God to help you, ask God to protect you, and like hold on to him.
It's a full-on spiritual battle.
It is a full-on spiritual battle, man.
Yeah. And I would also add, like, that goes back to like speaking up. Have advocates. Don't go on your own, especially when it's such a big person in the church or whatever, authority over you. Like, I would definitely say, like, have somebody that you can lean on when it gets bad, that you can talk to, like, hey, like, this is, nobody wants to believe me, or the person's denying it. Like, what do I do? Like, have that person, because some people can go completely crazy or get very depressed when they don't have anybody in their corner, and they're just like isolated now because they spoke up, So
I'm but some people don't even get that luxury. A lot of people don't even get that luxury, and I even think for us as a church, we really need to look down into ourselves. Why do we subconsciously silence people like that? Or why are we so quick to not believe people like that? Like, what is wrong with us having the concept? And I think it goes back to like glorifying a lot of men of God, but they're still men. You know what I mean? They're still men at the end. They're men first. So I think having the idea and being like, you know what, they're still men. They are still capable of doing this. So getting of that whole glorifying and making an idol of pastors and ministers and all these kind of men of God and saying they're still capable of hurting. And then having an open conversation, looking at the facts and saying, okay, this person is coming out reaching for help. Like, let's attend to them first. But as a church, we tend to not extend that grace because they're like, oh my God, it's going to shake things up. How is this going to look? The system in place. But Jesus came to shake things up. Jesus' main thing was the status quo is not working. So I'm going to shake things up. This is not what God imagined the church to look like. This is not what God wanted the church to be like. So it's very, very important. And for anybody like that is going through a lot of trauma, that is finding hard to let go and just feel like you're no longer bound for that trauma, like seriously let go and let God and ask God for the Holy Spirit to intervene on your behalf. Because even if people don't believe you, because that was my story, people didn't believe me for the first, second, and third time, but then Jesus intervened. So so ask the Holy Spirit to step in for you and talk for you and speak for you, telling you, God, anybody can help you, but if the Holy Spirit intervenes on your behalf, if Jesus fights on your behalf, you'll be solid.
Yeah. You know, and just to wrap it all up, I would say everybody has gone through some form of trauma or trial in their life, because the scriptures literally says that like in this life you will go through trials and tribulations. So I think this can be relevant to anybody that's listening, and just the base point is go to God. Regardless of what you're going through, no matter how big or small you may think it is in your eyes, nothing is too difficult for God to fix. Nothing is too small for him to comfort you through. And have reliable friends that you can also lean on in times of trouble. Like nobody should feel like they're isolated or they don't have anybody that they can speak to. I know I went through that time when God was like, cut. All these friends you have in your life are not healthy. They're not good. Man. And it was hard to like be in that, you know, isolated time, but it helped me to grow a relationship with him first. That when he now allowed me to have friends once again, I had a higher standard of what I needed. Because I was like, God was my best friend for a very long time now.
He was solid.
Do you live up to close to that? No, then no. Like, you know, so sometimes it is good to take a breather. Like, who are the people that I'm surrounding myself with? Are they helping me get closer to God? Or are they drawing me further away? And if they're drawing me further away, I'm not going to wait till the moment of crisis to start eliminating them. Let me take them out now and get closer to God, and then he will bring the right people around me. So yeah.
And remember, remember making yourself available for God to continuously work on you, because even if after you get the deliverance, you have to continuously seek him. So that's how you stay free. Because one thing the devil will love to do, he'll leave you for some time, but then you'll come back.
He's like, are you so ready?
So we have to make sure that like the fire is continuously burning on the altars, and making sure that we're continuously replacing the wood. We're continuously seeking him. We're continuously building ourselves up. So even when the enemy tries to throw any kind of arrow at us, it does not land. So it's so important. And I think actively working with God, because deliverance is not just like a one day thing. Yes, there might be like a big situation that comes out and like you have, but it's a consistent walk or work with him. So consistently choose him, consistently seek him, consistently hold on to him, and ask God to heal you from your past, restore your present, renew your future. Like, ask for restoration from every side. These are things that you can ask God for. So I think that's the main point of to stay free, seek Him.
Literally. Without God, you are not gonna win any battle.
Right. Exactly.
So thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Shifted
Perspective.
Yes, we're so happy that you guys tuned in. Let us know, what's your tears and triumphs? We want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts on everything we discussed on this episode. Have you been through some traumatic experiences? What helped you get through it? And share some testimonies in the comments. We'll love to hear from you. You can also like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow us on Instagram. You can also find us on
TikTok, Spotify, or any places that you find your podcast.
Yes.
So make sure to like, comment, and share with anybody. And please, we want to hear your stories in the comments.
Yes.
We want to hear how you got freed, how you stayed freed. What do you do? So, because we're a full family over there. So
yes. Share your PK perspective.
Thank you. Share your PK perspective. Anyways,
thanks. And we will see you next time on Shifted Perspectives.